My husband drove me to my pregnancy checkup. The nurse discreetly showed me her phone, pointing to the girl in the picture, and asked, "Is this his wife? Do you know her? Last month, he was the one who brought her here to get an abortion." I stared at the screen, and the person in the image was my own sister-in-law. I only did one thing, and my sister-in-law went crazy while my entire in-laws family was left frozen in shock. At that moment, I was sitting in a cloud-comfortable sofa in the waiting room of the most exclusive private OB/GYN clinic in Atlanta, Georgia. My 16-week belly was barely noticeable, but my hand rested on it unconsciously, stroking it gently, as if afraid to wake the tiny life growing inside. Sunlight streamed through the huge window, painting a warm, golden rectangle on the floor. Everything around me was bright, elegant, and silent. Welcome to Betty's Stories. I share new life stories here every day, and I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and liked my video. Now, let's jump back into my story. I'm sure you'll love it if you keep listening till the end. At a glance, anyone would say my life was at its best. My husband, Marcus, was at the reception counter, not far away. He wore an impeccable dress shirt and dark slacks. His figure was tall and upright. Every now and then, he would turn to look at me and smile, moving his lips to mouth. "We're almost there." That tender, attentive smile, the same one for years, was enough for any stranger to think how lucky I was to have married such a good man. And in truth, in the eyes of family and friends, Marcus was the ideal man. A good son, hard-working, successful in business, soft-spoken, and he never forgot to buy gifts for both our families. My in-laws considered him their greatest pride. From the moment we started dating until we got married, everything was so perfect that I came to believe it too. Surely fate had smiled on me by giving me such a decent family. He remembered every anniversary, never forgetting the flowers or the cake. If I had a midnight craving, he would drive across the city to find it. Since I got pregnant, his care had intensified. He helped me up and down the stairs. He reminded me to drink milk, and if I had nausea at night, he stayed awake with me, rubbing my back without a single complaint. Even today, when he had an important meeting at the office, he insisted on canceling it to personally bring me to my routine checkup. He took care of everything: parking the car, getting our number, carrying my medical history, and even placing a glass of warm water next to me. A couple of nurses who passed by looked at me with admiration, whispering amongst themselves, "She's so lucky. Her husband adores her." Those glances soothed the vague anxiety I was feeling, because to tell the truth, I hadn't been completely at ease lately. Marcus had been putting in more overtime. He arrived home late, and his phone was always password protected. When he received a call, he usually went out onto the balcony to talk in a low voice. If I asked, he would say it was work stuff, that I shouldn't worry about it because of the pregnancy. I told myself I might be extra sensitive because of the hormones and tried to trust him in that facade of happiness that I myself strove to maintain. I took a sip of water and took a deep breath, telling myself, "Don't overthink it. Keep your spirits up for the baby." The waiting room was filled only with soft music, the echo of footsteps on the tiled floor, and a slight scent of disinfectant. Right at that moment, a woman in her 50s, with her hair pulled back in a neat bun, a white lab coat, and a badge identifying her as Ms. Davis, the nursing supervisor, slowly approached. She gave me a professional smile. "You're Marcus's wife, right? Your husband really babies you. He does everything himself." I smiled with a touch of pride and nodded. "Yes, he worries too much." Ms. Davis looked at me for a couple more seconds with a strange expression in her eyes, a mix of compassion and doubt. She glanced quickly toward the counter. Marcus was still on his phone, paying, oblivious to our conversation. Suddenly, Ms. Davis lowered her voice. "I'm sorry to ask, but is everything okay in your relationship?" My heart skipped a beat. That seemingly casual question fanned the flame of unease burning inside me. I tried to stay calm and forced a restrained smile. "Yes, everything's normal. Is something wrong?" Ms. Davis's smile vanished. She looked back toward the counter to ensure Marcus wasn't returning and quickly took her phone out of her pocket. She slid her finger across the screen and held it out to me. "Do you know the person in this photo?" she asked in a whisper. I looked down. The image showed a hallway in a gynecology ward with a dim yellowish light, but the people were visible with a clarity that chilled my blood. A man was gently supporting a woman as they walked. The woman wore a mask, her face was pale, and she held her stomach, so weak she seemed to lean entirely on him. The man tilted his head down with a look full of concern. I didn't need a second glance to recognize the man as my husband. That back, that profile, even the way he placed his hand on the woman's back, was all too familiar. As for the woman, even though she wore a mask, her eyes and her figure were enough to recognize her. It was Chanel, the wife of my brother-in-law Andre. It was my sister-in-law. For an instant, a deafening buzz filled my head, as if someone had hit me with a hammer. The entire luxurious and warm environment turned into a cruel joke. My hand became rigid on my belly. I stared fixedly at the screen, my eyes so wide they hurt, my throat dry. "When was this picture taken?" My voice sounded hoarse and strange. I was even frightened to hear it myself. Ms. Davis replied firmly. "Last month, exactly on the 15th, they came to the gynecology floor of this hospital. I was on duty and saw clearly how he managed the paperwork. He paid and signed the documents. The girl underwent a termination of pregnancy. The fetus was already over 4 months old. It wasn't a minor thing." I felt an icy coldness. Last month, the 15th. I searched my memory. That exact day, Marcus told me he had a 2-day business trip and wouldn't be coming home. And Chanel told the whole family she felt unwell and was going to rest at her mother's house in the suburbs. I remember my brother-in-law Andre complaining at dinner that his wife was always delicate and was bored to death at home. The loose pieces of the puzzle suddenly clicked together to form a clear image. Over 4 months. That meant this pregnancy existed long before I discovered mine. My stomach churned with nausea, and I didn't know if it was because of my own pregnancy or the disgust. Ms. Davis sighed and whispered, "At the time, I thought they were husband and wife. He called her babe. He comforted her very affectionately. She was crying a lot, and he held her by the shoulders, saying things like, 'We'll get another chance. Don't cry anymore.' Today, seeing him bring you for your checkup, I was stunned. You're pregnant, and I was afraid you wouldn't be able to handle it. That's why I asked you earlier." Every word was like a knife stabbed to my chest. "Babe, we'll get another chance." They were phrases he had said to me too. It turns out that besides me, he had another woman, and on top of that, it was my sister-in-law. It turns out that while I was carefully nurturing my incipient pregnancy, their 4-month-old child was being silently taken to an operating room. Even so, I fought not to break down right there. I bit my lips so hard I tasted blood. I took a deep breath and asked in a near whisper, "Could you send me that photo?" Ms. Davis looked at me. She saw my reddened eyes, but my expression was lucid, and a glimpse of respect appeared in her gaze. She nodded. "Sure, but promise me you won't say I told you. Or I could lose my job. I'm only doing this because I feel sorry for you and for the baby you're carrying." "Yes, I understand. Thank you. Please, send it to me." I quickly took out my phone, opened my text app, and gave her my number. My phone vibrated, confirming I had received the image. At that very instant, from the counter, Marcus turned and walked toward me with a smile, holding up a folder with the payment papers. "All done, honey. Let's go see the doctor." "Okay. Oh, Ms. Davis, you're here too?" he asked, looking at me with the same tenderness as always. If it weren't for that picture, I would still believe it was sincerity. Ms. Davis changed her expression instantly and smiled as if nothing had happened. "Just stopping by to say hello. 16 weeks of pregnancy. You have to take good care of it. Come on in, see the doctor." Marcus nodded, turned to take my hand, and said in a sweet voice, "Let's go, my love. Let's see how our baby is doing today." I let him take my hand and stood up, feeling like I was walking on cotton, that every step was like stepping on broken glass. His hand on my shoulder, which used to be my support, now felt like a cold snake that made my skin crawl. In the consultation, I barely heard what the doctor was saying. The fetus is developing well, no problems. Eat and rest properly. Everything sounded like a distant murmur. I nodded, smiled, and asked a programmed automaton question about the next appointment. It wasn't until we left the clinic and sat in the car, watching the scenery pass by the window, that I felt I was returning to reality. I opened my phone and stared at the photo Ms. Davis had sent me, Marcus holding Chanel, his gaze so tender that even I, his legitimate wife, rarely received it. My chest tightened, but this time, along with the pain, a new cold feeling began to emerge. I slowly turned off the screen and squeezed the phone in my hand. If I had screamed, cried, and made a scene at the clinic right then, people would have said pregnant women exaggerate. Marcus would have simply said it was a misunderstanding, that he was just helping his sister-in-law with some tests, and my entire in-law's family would have sided with him, accusing me of thinking wrong, causing a scandal, and risking the baby. No, I couldn't be that stupid. I turned my head to look at Marcus. He was driving with a serene expression, even humming a song on the radio. He had no idea that the secret he also kept had just been discovered. Inside me, a slow, clear voice resonated. To survive, to protect your child, you have to be lucid, get evidence, and make all of them pay the price. I put my hand on my belly and stroked it. Honey, I'm sorry. As of today, Mommy will no longer be the naive, trusting woman she was before. Mommy is going to be smart. She is going to unmask them step by step. Mommy will teach you how traitors pay. That night, upon arriving home, Marcus maintained his usual affectionate attitude. He opened the door for me, told me to be careful of the step, and ran to the kitchen to heat water to prepare me a glass of milk. Every gesture was so natural that without the photo on my phone, I would still believe this man was the most solid pillar of my life. But now, each of his actions sent chills down my spine. I watched him bend down to plug in the kettle, that straight profile, that broad back I had leaned on so many times. And to think that only a few weeks ago, that same back had been my sister-in-law's refuge while she went to get an abortion. I didn't dare imagine their level of intimacy. Just thinking about it made my chest tight. I sat down with my hand on my belly, my breathing heavy. Marcus brought me the warm glass of milk, placed it in front of me, and knelt down as if to examine my expression. You were at the clinic for a long time today. You must be tired. Drink this to warm up. I nodded, forcing a smile. I accepted the glass, but didn't drink. His gaze seemed a confusing mixture of falsehood, familiarity, pity, and deceit. I no longer knew what was real and what wasn't. I'm fine, I said in a voice so calm it surprised even me. Just a little dizzy. Marcus narrowed his eyes. Do you want me to bring your vitamins? I shook my head and put the glass on the table. No need. I just want to rest for a bit. I got up to go to my room, but as I passed him, I clearly felt his gaze following me, an inquisitive look, as if he were trying to read my thoughts. I quickened my pace, pushed open the bedroom door, and locked it. For the first time in my life, I locked the door while my husband was outside. The sound of the lock was subtle, but surely enough to surprise Marcus. I heard him stop, and then his slow footsteps returned to the living room. He didn't knock on the door. He didn't ask anything. The house fell back into silence. I sat on the edge of the bed, took out my phone, and looked at the photo again. My stomach churned. I zoomed in, focusing on Marcus's look while he held Chanel. I had received that tenderness too, but it turned out it wasn't exclusive to me. It was for anyone who made his heart flutter, even if it was his own brother's wife. I gritted my teeth. I couldn't break down. I couldn't allow the baby I was carrying to suffer this pain with me. The first thing I had to do was verify everything clearly. I opened my menstrual cycle app on my phone and checked the last time Marcus and I had been together before I got pregnant. Then I compared it with the weeks of gestation the doctor had told me. Everything fit. Nothing strange. But what about Chanel's baby? 4 months. That meant during that time, Marcus had told me he was constantly traveling for work, even coming home very late some nights. He said he had missed flights or gotten stuck in meetings, and I, stupid me, believed it all. I wondered if Andre, my brother-in-law, knew that Chanel had had an abortion. It was hard to believe a husband could remain so calm while his wife had an abortion without him present. Or did Andre not know? The idea chilled my blood. If Andre knew, why did they act normally at family meals? And if he didn't know, then that baby was undoubtedly not his. I gasped, feeling like I had just brushed against a truth even darker than I imagined. Outside, I could hear the sound of the television. Marcus was watching the news at just the right volume. He continued with his life as if nothing had happened, as if he had no worries, while I, in this locked room, was the one who had to swallow the pain he had caused me. I lay down on the bed, hugged a pillow, and took a deep breath. I couldn't rush. I couldn't let emotions take over. I had to wait for the right opportunity to investigate. To protect myself and my child, I couldn't act lightly. Close to 11 o'clock that night, someone knocked on the door. "Are you asleep?" Marcus asked. I kept my voice calm. "Yes, you should go to sleep too." There was a long silence. Marcus must have felt my attitude was strange, but he couldn't know why. Finally, he said, "I left warm milk on the table for you. Remember to drink it tomorrow when you wake up." I didn't answer. A moment later, I heard his footsteps walking away and the door to the other room closing. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, the image of Marcus holding Chanel appeared. The initial pain had diminished a bit, giving way to a lucid determination. I had to know why they did it, why they betrayed me, why they dared to trample on the family I had built. Almost at dawn, I whispered in the darkness, "Marcus, do you think I'm going to cry and make a scene? That I'm going to be the same weak woman as before? You're wrong. I'm going to let you reveal your true face yourself. I'm going to get the evidence. And when the time comes, your whole family, including you, will have to bow their heads." My belly moved slightly as a response. I stroked it. "Calm down, my love." It was the first time I felt that inside me was no longer the docile wife, but a mother preparing to fight for her unborn child. The next morning, when I left the room, Marcus was already up. He was in the kitchen meticulously preparing 2 plates of omelets and toast and a glass of warm soy milk. The morning light poured through the window, creating a strange atmosphere of peace. Seeing the scene, for an instant, my heart still felt a slight tremor, a residue of that faint affection I once felt for him. But then the image of Chanel leaning on Marcus's chest returned like a stab. In a second, all the tenderness in me vanished. "You're up," Marcus smiled lightly. "I prepared breakfast for Mommy and the baby today." I just nodded without saying anything. Marcus carefully pulled a chair closer, as if afraid I might fall. I sat down, my eyes fixed on the plate, but my mind in turmoil. Marcus sat opposite, subtly observing me while he ate. He knew I suspected something, that he sensed my coldness, but he couldn't guess what I already knew, and I wasn't going to reveal it so soon. "Eat up or you'll be hungry," he insisted. I picked up the fork and poked a tiny piece. The taste was the same as always, the taste of the eggs he had prepared for me for years, but now I felt no warmth in my throat. After a few bites, I put down the fork. "I want to go to your parents' house this afternoon. They told me they had an errand today." Marcus stopped for a second and then nodded. "Sure, I'll take you." "No need. I'll take a cab." "What do you mean, no need?" His voice went up half a tone. I looked up and stared at him, trying to appear as calm as possible. "I want to go alone. Besides, I'm tired and I don't feel much like talking." Marcus stared at me intently. It was obvious he felt something strange, but that's what I wanted, for him to feel uneasy, to make his own conjectures, to be afraid. "Are you mad at me for something, right?" he asked gravely. "I'm not mad," I replied softly. "Then why, since last night—" "I'm tired. Don't overthink it." I got up and went to the room to change. I knew that when I returned, Marcus would still be sitting there, motionless, his gaze full of suspicion. But I didn't care. A shiver ran down my spine. What he felt now was not even a fraction of what I had suffered seeing that photograph. I arrived at my in-laws' house just as Chanel was sitting on the patio with a glass of orange juice in her hand and her face looking a little pale. Andre, her husband, was pruning some orchids in a corner, whistling cheerfully. Seeing that scene, I felt something indescribable. If Andre knew that his wife had gotten pregnant by another man and had an abortion, could he still whistle like that, or would everything shatter right here? I went into the house. My mother-in-law, Loretta, was watching TV. Seeing me, she smiled. "I took a cab. I had to run some errands." Her gaze paused for an instant. Perhaps she also noticed that something was not as usual, but she didn't ask further. Chanel came in from the patio. Seeing me, she forced a smile. "Hi, sister-in-law. I was just thinking of going to buy some fruit." I looked her directly in the eyes. She froze mid-step. Her smile was briefly caught. I didn't know if it was out of shame or fear. "Are you okay?" I asked, keeping my voice as serene as possible. "Yes, I'm fine," Chanel replied, shifting her gaze and squeezing her hands. I nodded silently and sat on the sofa. My mother-in-law served me a glass of warm water. "Drink, honey. With the pregnancy, you shouldn't walk alone in a cab. It's dangerous. Tell Marcus to take you." I pressed my lips together. If she knew what Marcus had done behind her back, I don't know if she would dare say that. Shortly after, Andre came in smiling. "Sister-in-law, do you want anything? I'm going to buy some." I looked at Andre, the good, simple guy in the family, always respectful and responsible, who had loved me like a sister since I joined the family. He was the one who had promised to take care of Chanel all his life. And now, thinking that his wife was cheating on him with his own brother, I felt as if a hand were squeezing my heart. But no, I couldn't let it go out of compassion. The truth had to come out. I hadn't come today to tell everything. I only wanted to observe Chanel and Andre's reaction. I wanted to see if, in front of me, the woman carrying Marcus's child in her belly, they felt any guilt. Unfortunately, Chanel avoided my gaze, and Andre was so innocent he seemed to know nothing. During the meal, everyone chatted animatedly, except me. Chanel looked at me out of the corner of her eye occasionally and then lowered her head. That gesture did not escape me. When my mother-in-law asked, "Why the long face? Are you not enjoying the food?" I looked at my plate and smiled faintly. "No, the smell of the food is just bothering me a little." I said that phrase on purpose. Marcus had told me exactly the same thing the day I found out I was pregnant. And now that same sentence chilled my blood as I recalled that 4 months ago, Chanel was also pregnant, and it was very likely that Marcus had comforted her in the same way. Hearing it, Chanel's eyes widened, and the spoon she held trembled in her hand. She quickly looked away. Andre laughed. "My wife was just like you, sister-in-law, when she had morning sickness. She'd smell a little fried garlic and wouldn't stop going in and out of the bathroom." The atmosphere at the table froze for an instant. Chanel lowered her gaze. Her face turned even paler. I, on the other hand, smiled inwardly, a smile that no one but me could understand. In the afternoon, before leaving, I stood in the patio looking at the flowering bougainvillea. Andre came out to see me off. "Sister-in-law, be careful. If you want, I'll drive you back tonight." I turned to look at him. Such a good man didn't deserve to be cheated on by his wife and his brother. "Thank you, Andre," I said, "but I have some things to do." He nodded and went back inside. I stayed a few seconds longer. Through the window, I saw Chanel sitting at the table with a hand instinctively covering her stomach. No one knew that a small life once existed there, silently and painfully eliminated. She looked up and met my gaze. For an instant, her eyes visibly trembled, as if she understood that I already knew something. I slightly inclined my head, looked away, and opened the gate to leave. Each step was heavy, but also filled with determination. They think I don't know anything. They think I'm weak and that I'll stay silent. But this has only just begun. I'll make each one of them bow their heads before me, and for the child I carry in my belly. That night, when I returned home, the living room light was on. Marcus was sitting on the sofa with his hands clasped, looking toward the door as if he had been waiting for me. As soon as I entered, he jumped up and approached with a worried voice. "You've been out all day." He was very nervous. "Why weren't you answering your phone?" I slowly took off my shoes, hung up my purse, and tried to keep my voice calm. "My phone was on silent in my purse. It's normal I didn't hear it." Marcus looked at me, as if searching for something behind my apparent calm. He moved closer, trying to touch my shoulder, but I subtly moved away and went straight to the kitchen for water. I know that gesture left him stunned, but I didn't care. Today, I didn't have the strength to play the role of the docile wife. He followed me. "Are you really mad at me?" I turned around and looked him in the eyes. "I told you I'm not mad, but your attitude, if you want me to be happy, just leave me alone for a while." I interrupted him. "I'm 16 weeks pregnant. I'm tired. I feel unwell. Do you understand?" My words left Marcus speechless. A good while later, he nodded. "Okay, I won't bother you. But if something happens to you, tell me. I worry a lot about you." I didn't answer. Marcus looked at me for a few more seconds, as if he wanted to say something, but swallowed it. He went to his home office and closed the door. I, in the kitchen, grabbed the edge of the counter to keep from losing my balance. Inside me, everything was a whirlwind of sensations. I didn't know how much longer I could pretend, but I knew if I rushed, I would lose. I had to let Marcus make a mistake, and I had to figure out to what extent Chanel was able to keep a secret. Very late that night, I took out my phone and looked at the photo again. The light from the screen illuminated my face in the darkness. My chest hurt again, but I took a deep breath to suppress it. I started checking Marcus's messages list. He had a password. I knew that. But a man's habits are often revealed in moments of distraction. Marcus used to leave his phone near the table or on the nightstand. I started observing that habit. There had to be a way to open it. Nothing can be hidden forever. I lay down, hugging my belly. "Honey, Mommy promises you she won't rush. Mommy will go step by step to protect you." I fell into a heavy sleep. The next day, while peeling fruit in the kitchen, Marcus's phone rang. He was in the shower. The phone vibrated nonstop. The screen lit up, showing an incoming call from a blocked number. I looked at it, and my heart started beating fast. A strange intuition ran down my spine. I picked up the phone and looked at it closely. It was still a blocked number. It wasn't a normal acquaintance because Marcus's contacts always appeared with their name. I let the phone ring. The call was cut off. A few seconds later, a message notification appeared. "Pick up the phone, please. I'm so worried." Just that. No name, no profile picture. I felt like I couldn't breathe. It was clearly not a work message. That tone could only belong to someone scared, someone who feared Marcus wouldn't answer. I heard the shower water stop. In those brief seconds, I tried to open the message, but it asked for a password. I put the phone back exactly where it was, just as Marcus came out of the bathroom, hair wet and a towel over his shoulder. He saw the screen off and didn't suspect anything. He picked up the phone, gave it a quick look, and a shadow of impatience crossed his face. He turned and went out onto the balcony to return the call. My heart sank. I hid behind the kitchen wall. Marcus spoke very softly, but I could still hear a few words. "I told you to calm down. Nothing is wrong. Let me fix it." I had to hold onto a chair to keep from trembling. Fix what? Fix it to hide it from me? To protect Chanel? Or to erase the traces of the abortion? When Marcus came back in, he saw me washing the fruit. He forced a smile. "What are you doing, honey? That was a call from a client." I replied without flinching. I don't care." Marcus froze. His gaze was fixed on me for one more instant. He had surely noticed my change, but he wasn't asking. He didn't dare to ask. That afternoon, while Marcus was out, I went into his home office. I didn't rummage through his things. I only looked at what was in plain sight. A time-off request submitted over a month ago, the 15th, the day of Chanel's abortion. My stomach tightened. I stroked the paper, feeling a mixture of pain and cold. I opened the next drawer, a hospital bill, the same one where Ms. Davis worked. Underneath, a detailed payment for a voluntary termination of pregnancy service. Signed, Marcus. I froze. All my suspicions turned into undeniable truth. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't my pregnant imagination. Marcus had signed the abortion papers for Chanel. My hands trembled uncontrollably. I had to sit on the bed to keep from falling. A good while later, when I regained my breath, I took out my phone and photographed everything. I saved it in a secure folder with its own password. These were my proofs. What I would use to protect my child. What would bring the truth to light. I was putting the bill back in the drawer when the door opened. Marcus was there. I was startled, but my face instantly regained its calm. Marcus looked at me with a mixture of suspicion and concern. "What are you looking for?" I closed the drawer and said slowly, "I was looking for the sonogram from the other day, but I must have left it on my desk." I looked at him for a long time. A heavy silence settled between us. Then I smiled bitterly. Well, I must have been mistaken. I left the room, but as I passed him, I felt his gaze fixed on my back. He was starting to get scared, and that was exactly what I wanted. I had to make him feel insecure, make him make mistakes, make him fear losing me. That way, he would reveal everything himself, because this game had only just begun, and I, the woman carrying a small life in her belly, was going to win. After leaving Marcus's office, I went straight to the balcony. I leaned on the railing and took a deep breath. The afternoon air was cooler than usual. The wind caressed my face, helping me think more clearly. Down in the gated community's common area, children ran and laughed while the building porters chatted quietly, having coffee. Life out there was so peaceful that it was hard to believe that just a few floors up, a woman's heart was slowly being crushed. I put my hand on my belly and stroked it. "Honey, Mommy won't let anyone hurt you ever again." In that instant, I felt a strength I had never had before. Maybe what they say is true. When a woman becomes a mother, she becomes stronger than she ever imagined. The door behind me opened softly. It was Marcus's footsteps. He stopped beside me, also resting his hands on the railing, his face forcibly calm. "Are you really okay, Imani?" I glanced at him. That look would have convinced me before, but now it just seemed like a pretty facade to hide his deceit. "I'm perfectly fine," I replied. "You're acting so weird. You're hiding something from me, aren't you?" I looked away and stared down. "If I were hiding something from you, would you tell me the truth?" Marcus was startled. My question put him on alert. I saw his shoulders tense and his gaze shift. "What are you referring to?" he asked, trying to keep calm. "I'm just asking, nothing more," I replied lightly. Marcus remained silent. A moment later, he forced a laugh. "When you say that, it means there's something. But hey, I trust you'll tell me when you're ready." I didn't answer. I left him immersed in that uncertainty, between trust and suspicion, between worry and doubt. That was what I wanted. That night, I pretended to be sleepy early. Marcus, on the other hand, was restless. He paced the living room, occasionally looking toward my bedroom door. I knew he was nervous, that he feared I knew something and was planning something he couldn't foresee. Around 11 o'clock, as I lay motionless as if in a deep sleep, I heard my bedroom door open, very slowly. Marcus's silhouette was outlined in the doorway, observing me. I kept my eyes closed and my breathing even, pretending not to notice. A few moments later, he crept in. He approached the bed. I felt his hand settle gently on the comforter near my belly, a touch so light that, nonetheless, betrayed his nervousness. Perhaps he feared that if I found out, I would do something that could affect the baby. "Sleep well," he said, in an almost inaudible whisper. I didn't move. He stayed there a few seconds longer, and just as I expected, he turned around and left the room. I heard the office door open and close. I counted to 60 and then carefully got up and approached the office door. I put my ear to it. Marcus's voice was a murmur. I told you she doesn't know yet. Calm down. Let me see how I fix it. If it gets out, I'll be the only one who pays the consequences." Every phrase was a blow to the chest. It was clear he was talking to Chanel, and they were both afraid of something. What intrigued me the most was the phrase, "If it gets out, I'll be the only one who pays the consequences." What was he afraid of being discovered? The abortion or something deeper? I sat on the living room sofa, my heart racing. I couldn't stand idly by. I had to take one more step. Tomorrow, I would talk to Chanel. The next morning, I put on a loose blouse to hide my belly. I tied up my hair and called a cab to go to my in-laws' house. Chanel was alone. Andre had gone to work, and my mother-in-law was at the market. The house was silent. I walked into the kitchen and saw her cutting vegetables. Seeing me, she froze. "Hi, sister-in-law, you're early." "Yes," I said calmly. "I want to talk to you." My words made her almost drop the knife. She placed it on the counter, her face pale. About what, sister-in-law?" I approached the table and sat down. "Sit down. Let's talk for a moment." Chanel swallowed and sat opposite me, her hands trembling on her knees. The silence became heavy. Finally, I broke the ice. "How have you been lately?" Chanel was startled. Her gaze wavered. "Fine. I'm fine." "Are you sure?" "Yes, sure." I looked her straight in the eyes. "Then the baby, the thing from last month, have you gotten over it?" Chanel's body shuddered. Her face turned white as paper. I didn't need to ask anything more. I knew she understood what I was talking about. "Sister-in-law, what do you know?" I didn't reply immediately. I took out my phone, opened the photo Ms. Davis had sent me, and placed it in front of her. Seeing the screen, Chanel froze. Tears welled up in her eyes, but I saw it clearly. They weren't tears of innocence, but of panic at seeing her secret discovered. I said slowly, "Tell me, whose baby was that?" Chanel burst into tears, grabbing her clothes. "Sister-in-law, I beg you, don't tell Andre. I'm begging you." I looked at her, my heart sinking, but I didn't soften. I couldn't. "You dared to do it, and now you don't dare to speak?" I asked gravely. Chanel sobbed. "I made a mistake. It was crazy. But please don't let my husband find out. He would leave me." And I asked, maintaining my calm, "Have you thought about how I feel?" Chanel collapsed, covering her face. "I beg you. I'll do whatever you want, but please don't tell him." I observed her carefully. Her cowardice didn't anger me as much as the fact that Marcus had betrayed me to protect this woman. I said softly, "I haven't told anyone yet, but I'm not going to let this go. Is there anything else between you and Marcus that I don't know?" My question was like a second stab. Chanel's eyes opened wide. Her lips trembled. "Sister-in-law, Marcus, I pressed her. Chanel squeezed her hands, and between sobs, whispered something that chilled my blood. "Marcus said we couldn't have that baby because you were pregnant." Every word fell like a heavy stone. I felt as if someone had slapped me. At that moment, all my suspicions turned into a horrible truth. Marcus had forced Chanel to have an abortion because I had gotten pregnant first. I jumped up, staggering. Chanel cried inconsolably. "I beg you, don't tell anyone!" But I no longer heard her. In my head, only a cold voice resonated. Marcus had not only betrayed me, he had chosen my child, at the cost of killing another person's child. I took a deep breath and turned to leave. At the door, I stopped and, without turning around, said, "Pray that I don't discover anything else." Chanel stopped crying. The air became dense. I left my in-laws' house with my hand on my belly and my heart cold as steel. This game had entered a new phase, and defeat would never be an option for me. I left my in-laws' house feeling like I was floating. A mixture of emptiness, pain, rage, and disgust swirled inside me, to the point that I had to lean on the gate to catch my breath. On the street, the traffic, the horns, the conversations, and the laughter of the children continued their normal course, but inside me, everything had collapsed. Marcus forced her to abort because I was pregnant. That phrase repeated in my head again and again, stabbing every corner of my heart. The betrayal was already a devastating blow, but he had gone further. He had chosen my son, sacrificing the life of another to protect his image, to save this family, or for fear that his parents would find out. I didn't know, and I no longer wanted to guess. The only sure thing was that Marcus was no longer the man I once trusted, the one I loved, the one I called my husband. The cab stopped in front of my building. I paid and got out, but when I reached the entrance, I stopped. If I went home now, I would have to see Marcus, hear his lies, bear that look of false affection that hid a cold calculation. I didn't want to. No. Now I opened my phone and searched for a familiar name. Jasmine, my only true friend since college, the only one I could trust. I sent her a message. Jasmine, can I see you now? Less than a minute later, she called me. Where are you? I'm coming right now. An hour later, I was in a small coffee shop near a park. The place was almost empty. I hugged my mug of hot herbal tea, but my hands were still freezing. Jasmine looked at me for a long time and sighed. Girl, you're skin and bones. What happened? I didn't speak immediately. I opened my phone and showed her the photo. She looked at it for a second and paled. That's Marcus. And that girl is your sister-in-law. My God. I held back the tears and told her everything. Ms. Davis's photo, Chanel's confession, the abortion bill, the time off request. The more I talked, the more Jasmine's hands trembled. Finally, she hugged me. How have you managed to hold up until now? A man like that doesn't deserve anyone. I looked at her with dry eyes. I don't have any tears left, Jasmine. A while later, she asked, And what are you planning to do? The question made me squeeze the mug tightly. Are you going to keep living with him? I shook my head. I can't leave yet. If I want to protect my son, I have to stay long enough to know the whole truth. If Marcus forced Chanel to abort so that this family wouldn't be exposed, I have to be even more cautious. Someone like that, cornered, is capable of anything. Jasmine looked at me with a mixture of admiration and concern. You're stronger than I thought, but you're alone against his whole family, and you're pregnant on top of that. It's very dangerous. I placed a hand on my belly and closed my eyes. No one is going to hurt this baby. No one. Jasmine was silent for a few seconds and then asked, Do you need my help with anything? I opened my eyes and looked straight at her. Yes, I need you to watch someone. Who? Chanel. Jasmine was surprised. Your sister-in-law? Why? Do you think Chanel is going to be completely honest with me? I asked softly. She's afraid of me, but fear is one thing, and honesty is another. If she's more afraid of Marcus, she'll continue to hide things. I need to know if they're still in contact, if they're seeing each other, if there are more secrets. Jasmine nodded slowly. Understood. I squeezed her hand. You're the only one I trust. I believe Chanel is still in contact with Marcus. The one who called last night was surely her. Jasmine sighed. Lord, that a pregnant woman has to go through this. I forced a bitter smile. It's fine. I endure it for my son. Almost at sunset, I returned home. Opening the door, Marcus was in the kitchen. He saw me and rushed over. Where have you been all day? Why didn't you let me know? I put down my purse and coat. I was with a friend. What friend? Marcus asked, his voice tense. Jasmine. His face visibly relaxed. Perhaps in his world, Jasmine was the type of woman who would never get involved in other people's business, and that reassured him. He offered me a glass of water. Drink. I was worried. Were you still on silent? Yes, I was tired. Marcus watched me long and hard, as if trying to decipher what my gaze concealed. I let him look at me. I wanted him to see a wife seemingly sad because of pregnancy discomforts. If something is wrong, tell me, he said softly. I smiled and put a hand on my belly. As long as you worry about the two of us, that's enough. Worrying too much is bad for your health." Those words, light as the wind, made Marcus stop. He looked at me with a strange expression, a mixture of fear and suspicion, as if he had just realized that the woman in front of him was no longer the one from before. I turned and went into my room, closing the door behind me. In the dim light, I leaned on the wall, hand on my belly. "Honey, today I know I've made a lot of progress. Don't worry, Mommy won't do anything crazy. I'll let the truth come out on its own. I'll let everyone take off their mask." I closed my eyes. Tomorrow, I would start investigating Andre, Marcus's brother, because a husband as good as him couldn't suspect nothing. That night, when Marcus was already asleep, I sat up, leaning against the headboard of the bed. The light from the bedside lamp projected a yellow spot on the wall. I opened my phone and re-watched the video from that morning, Marcus hugging Chanel. My heart sank, but no longer with the pain of the first days. The pain was transforming into a lucid coldness, an instinct for survival. Marcus slept beside me with even breathing. He didn't know that each of his sighs provoked a bitter laugh in me. A man capable of lying to his wife while hugging her, of signing an abortion and then preparing her breakfast. A man like that. I had to be much more careful. I put down my phone and stroked my belly. "Honey, tomorrow, Mommy has to see Andre. I need to know if he suspects anything. And if he suspects and keeps silent, he's not innocent either." The next morning, as soon as Marcus left, I called a cab to go to Andre's office. I didn't tell anyone, not even Jasmine. I wanted to see him alone, look him in the eyes, and find out what kind of man he was. His office was small but tidy. I saw him through the glass, working quietly. How could such a sincere man be betrayed without knowing it? I walked in. Seeing me, his face lit up. "Sister-in-law, what are you doing here?" I smiled. "I wanted to see you for a moment. Do you have a minute?" "Sure." He stood up and offered me a chair. "Do you want anything?" I shook my head. "I just want to ask you a couple of things." Andre sat down with a kind smile. "Ask whatever you want." I paused and then asked slowly, "Chanel, have you noticed anything strange about her lately?" Andre pondered. "Chanel, well, normal. Lately she's a little sad, more sensitive. I guess she's tired." I stared at him, looking for a hint of doubt, but there was nothing, only blind trust. "Haven't you noticed anything strange about Chanel?" I insisted. He smiled. "You worry too much, sister-in-law. We're fine. Lately she goes to her parents' house a lot. I guess her mom misses her." I took a deep breath. Andre didn't know anything. "And when she leaves, you never ask her where she's going?" "Of course I do. But if she tells me she's going to her mother's house, I believe her. I trust my wife, sister-in-law. I trust my wife." Those words hurt me. I had also trusted like that, to the point of lowering my guard with a simple word, only to receive a betrayal. I decided to try something. "Andre, if one day you discovered that your wife was hiding something from you, what would you do?" He frowned, but then smiled. "Hiding what? Chanel is an angel. It's just a hypothetical." Andre thought for a moment. "If it wasn't serious, we would talk to understand each other. But if it was something serious, a betrayal, I don't think I could forgive it. It's difficult to stay together after something like that." My heart pounded. And what if the betrayal came from someone in the family? My question froze him. He looked at me fixedly, his face serious. "What are you trying to tell me, sister-in-law?" I looked out the window. I knew a single word could crumble his entire family, but it wasn't the moment. I turned and said softly, "I just wanted to know what you thought." Andre nodded, but looked at me suspiciously. "Sister-in-law, if something is wrong, you can tell me, you know?" I smiled. "When necessary, I will tell you. For now, watch Chanel a bit. I don't see her well." "I will." He nodded. I stood up, and Andre walked me to the door. Stepping out onto the street, I realized my hands were freezing. Andre was a good man, but his goodness made him vulnerable. Just at that moment, my phone vibrated. A message from Jasmine. News. "Chanel just left your in-laws' house. She took a cab toward your gated community. I stopped dead in my tracks. To my house. Did she say anything? I replied. No, she just asked the cab driver to hurry. I called a cab immediately. Only one thought crossed my mind. What was Chanel doing going to my house? If she was coming to beg me for silence, I would understand. But going while Marcus wasn't there made no sense, unless she was so scared by what I knew that she wanted to talk to Marcus before me. I leaned back in the cab seat, hand on my belly. I felt a warning. Something very dangerous awaited me. The cab sped quickly under the scorching sun. I leaned back in the seat, one hand on my belly, the other gripping my purse. The unease grew. Jasmine sent another message. Chanel got out at the community entrance. She's looking around as if searching for someone. I read the message and felt a pang. She was looking for someone, me or Marcus. Or worse, she feared Andre would find out and wanted to talk to Marcus first. No, I couldn't let them talk alone. If they did, they would plan how to confront me. The cab stopped. I paid and got out. In the distance, I saw a familiar figure near the park benches. Chanel. She wore a beige jacket, a cap, and a mask. She looked nervous, looking at her phone and then around her. When she saw no one, she started walking toward my building. I hid behind a column. I had to wait for the right moment. I had to find her before Marcus. She stopped in front of the elevator and waited. I approached slowly. When the doors opened and she went in, I didn't follow. I waited with a coldness I had never felt before. The elevator went up to the 8th floor, my floor. I entered the elevator next to it and pressed 8. Stepping out, the hallway was silent. And there, in front of my door, was Chanel. She looked on both sides and raised her hand to knock. The sound of my heels made her turn sharply. Sister-in-law, she stammered, pale. I looked at her with a calm that surprised me. Who are you looking for? I asked her. Chanel swallowed, forcing a smile. I came to ask you something. I'm listening. She looked around, fearful, lowered her head, and whispered, I beg you, don't tell Andre. I'm scared. I opened my front door and said, Are you going to keep begging in the hallway? Come in. I don't like scenes. Chanel hesitated and then entered. I closed the door but didn't lock it. She stood in the middle of the living room, trembling. No, I didn't know you were home. You wanted to see Marcus, didn't you? I asked in a monotonous voice. Chanel stepped back as if I had slapped her. No, it's not that. Don't lie, I said bluntly. Marcus left early today. You couldn't reach him, and you came here, didn't you? Chanel backed up another step. Sister-in-law, you misunderstood. Chanel, I interrupted her. What are you afraid of? That Andre finds out, or that Marcus leaves you? She burst into tears instantly. I'm scared, so scared. Please, don't say anything. I watched her for a long time. In her trembling, there was no love, only fear, guilt, and selfishness. A woman who betrays her husband with her brother-in-law and now cries for fear of losing her status. I said coldly, You weren't afraid when you had the abortion, when you deceived Andre, when you slept with my husband. Chanel sobbed. I made a mistake. I got carried away. I couldn't stop. Who forced you? I asked. Chanel fell silent. I walked closer to her. You told me Marcus forced you to abort because I was pregnant, right? Chanel trembled, covering her face. Don't ask me anything more, please. I'm scared. Scared? I smiled. Then all the more reason you have to talk. She bit her lip until it bled, and between sobs said something that chilled my blood. Marcus said that if I had the baby, he would lose everything, and that you would also be in danger. I froze. I heard it clearly. Danger. Explain yourself, I repeated. Chanel shook her head. I don't know. He just said you couldn't find out because of the pregnancy, that it would affect you and the baby. I squeezed the edge of the table so hard my nails hurt. A man who hides infidelity and forces his mistress to abort is already despicable, but one who uses the life of his wife and son to justify his actions is not despicable. It's terrifying. I asked, word for word. "What else are you hiding from me?" Chanel cried harder. "No, I don't dare to say it. If I talk, I'm afraid he'll do something. He told me to keep quiet, or you would suffer too." I looked at her. If Chanel truly believed Marcus could hurt me, what had he told her? What had he threatened her with? To what extent did she fear that I knew everything? I said calmly, "If you don't talk, I'll find out anyway, but if you're honest now, I won't leave you alone." Chanel opened her eyes. "One thing, sister-in-law. Marcus, did he ever tell you he wanted to break up with you?" Chanel fell silent, and that silence was all the confirmation I needed. I took a deep breath with a bitter understanding. Marcus wanted to maintain his image as a good husband, get rid of Chanel, and prevent everything from coming to light. That's why he forced her to abort. Someone like that was capable of anything. Suddenly, the door opened. I turned abruptly. Marcus was in the doorway with his keys in his hand, pale as a ghost. Chanel jumped up. I looked at my husband without blinking. In that instant, the air froze, and I knew the moment for a direct confrontation had arrived. The moment the door opened, Marcus froze, his face pale and terrified. His gaze darted from me to Chanel like a thief caught red-handed. Chanel jumped up and stammered, "Marcus, Sister-in-law." Marcus raised a hand, his voice stuck in his throat. "What? What are you doing here?" The question wasn't for me, his pregnant wife, but for her. That single sentence was enough for me to see my place in his world. Chanel lowered her head. "I just came to talk to your wife, to ask her not to tell Andre anything." I crossed my arms, leaning on the table, without taking my eyes off Marcus. He swallowed, trying to regain his composure. "Go home," he told Chanel. "I'll fix this." Chanel burst into tears. "I'm scared. Don't abandon me, please." I smiled bitterly. "She hasn't even finished talking, and you're already throwing her out. Are you afraid I'll hear something, Marcus?" He turned to me, genuinely scared, not of my pain, but because I knew too much. "You misunderstood. Let me explain." "Stay where you are," I said, with a low but firm voice that made even Chanel look at me terrified. I took a deep breath, hand on my belly. I couldn't let my emotions get the better of me. I looked at Marcus. "Ask yourself what you're afraid of. That I know you're sleeping with my sister-in-law, or that you forced her to have an abortion?" His face contorted. "Who told you that?" "I have eyes," I replied, "and a phone, the abortion bill, and your time-off request from the 15th. Do you need me to continue?" Marcus held his breath. Chanel cried louder. "I'm sorry, sister-in-law. It was my fault, but I was no longer looking at her. My attention was on the man who once swore to protect me. Tell me, Marcus, why did you force her to abort?" Marcus opened his mouth, but no sound came out. I saw his shoulders tremble. A remorseful man would have confessed instantly, but he was afraid because he hadn't just made a mistake. He had been calculating. Finally, he put a hand to his forehead. "I didn't want everything to be destroyed." "Destroyed?" I laughed. "The only thing you've destroyed is me and the family I believed in." I took a step toward him, and he backed away, avoiding my gaze. "Tell me the truth. Who do you love more, me, her, or yourself above all else?" Chanel suddenly knelt. "Please, don't leave him. He said he didn't want you to find out because it would hurt you, because of the pregnancy." I turned to her. "And when you aborted, did you think I was pregnant?" Chanel was choked by her tears, but what chilled me was what Marcus said next. "I made a mistake, but I only wanted to protect you." "Protect me?" I repeated with an empty voice. "By forcing another woman to abort, by lying to me every day." Marcus shook his head. "I wanted to end things with her, but if Andre found out, everything would have broken. My parents. I panicked." I laughed. A laugh without tears. "You were afraid of disappointing your parents, of your family being exposed, and the other person's son, that baby. Didn't that scare you?" Marcus fell silent, his fists clenched. I looked at him for a long time, and then said in a soft voice, one that echoed throughout the room, "Marcus, an unfaithful man can be forgiven. A traitor, too, but a man who forces a child to die to save his own honor, I paused, can never be my husband again. Marcus looked up with red eyes. Don't say that, please. I shook my head. I'm not divorcing yet. I'm just getting my son away from this toxic environment. Let it be clear, from today on, I am no longer your naive wife, and you are no longer my support. You are just the father of the baby I'm carrying, nothing more. Marcus staggered. Chanel remained kneeling, crying, and I, between them, felt my heart frozen. I opened the door and pointed outside. Chanel, go and don't enter my house again without permission. And you, Marcus, we'll talk when I'm ready, not today. Chanel got up and ran out. When only the two of us remained, I went into my room and said, "Close the door when you leave. I'm tired." I locked myself in the bedroom. Leaning on the door, I placed a hand on my belly. The baby moved. I closed my eyes and whispered, "Mommy will protect you, even if I have to fight the whole world." I closed my bedroom door, but I could still hear Marcus's agitated breathing outside, like a cornered animal. I felt no pity, not even rage, just a chilling emptiness. I sat on the bed with my hand on my belly. The baby moved, reminding me that I couldn't break down. Outside, after a long silence, Marcus whispered, "I'm sorry. I'll wait until you're ready to talk." I heard his footsteps move away and the front door close. The house fell silent. I lay down, but I couldn't sleep. Everything repeated in my head. Marcus's fear, Chanel's trembling, and the cruel truth that both had used a child's life to protect their false peace. My parents taught me that those who do wrong pay for it. And today, I had seen the opposite. The guilty ones trying to bury the truth, and the most hurt one was the only innocent. I hugged my belly. "Honey, from now on, I only have you." An hour later, I went out. Marcus was gone. In the kitchen, the glass of water he had prepared for me was cold, just like my feelings for him. I drank some water. To protect ourselves, I had to think long term. I couldn't rush. If I made a scene now, the only one harmed would be me. Marcus's family would blame me. I had to let him expose himself. I called Jasmine. "Are you okay? I'm coming over right now." "Don't come," I replied with surprising calm. "I don't want anyone to see me like this." "You're trembling, aren't you? I hear you breathe." I took a deep breath. "I'm fine, but I need you to help me with something." "With what?" "Help me prepare an exit." There was a silence. "Are you planning to divorce?" I smiled bitterly. "Not yet, but I won't live with a man like that forever. Are you going to leave?" "No. If I leave now, I lose everything. I need to prepare myself." "What do you need?" Jasmine asked seriously. "A small rental apartment near the hospital with nice landlords, just to have a place to go if I need it." "I'll take care of it, but promise me you won't do anything to put yourself in danger. Do it for your son." "I live for my son. I don't live for anyone else anymore," I replied. That afternoon, Marcus returned home with a drawn face. He stood at my bedroom door. "Are you feeling better?" "I'm not sick," I replied without looking at him. "I don't know what to say. I made a mistake." I looked up. "What are you afraid I think? That you're unfaithful? That you forced your mistress to abort? Or that you used a baby's life to save your reputation?" Marcus trembled. "I didn't want it to happen." "Shut up." My voice wasn't loud, but it made him step back. I stood up. We were no longer husband and wife, but two strangers. "Marcus, from now on, we will live under the same roof, but only so that I can prepare myself. You will do what I tell you, without question. Understood?" "What are you going to do?" "Protect my son. Don't ask any more." Marcus bowed his head in defeat. I went into my room. "Don't sleep here tonight. I'm tired." He stood still for a long time and then went to the living room. I closed the door. The afternoon light flooded the room. I stroked my belly. "Honey, a lot is coming, but Mommy will be calm. Mommy will let everyone show their true face. I will protect you with everything I have." Outside, I heard Marcus's muffled sobs, but I no longer had tears. His happy days were over. The next morning, I woke up in a sunny room. Outside, the birds were singing, but my heart didn't feel that peace. I stroked my belly and felt a gentle kick. It calmed me. I left the room. Marcus was sleeping on the sofa with swollen eyes. He woke up when he saw me. "You're up. I'll make you milk." I crossed my arms. "No need. I can do it myself." He got up awkwardly. "Are you still angry?" "It's no longer anger. It's a lack of trust," I replied. Marcus was speechless and stepped aside to let me pass. I ate breakfast in silence, not out of hunger, but to regain strength. I needed to be lucid. When I was leaving, Marcus said, "I'll take you." "No need. I want to go alone." He understood that I no longer wanted him to be part of my life. At work, everyone greeted me, thinking I was the happy pregnant woman. No one knew the darkness that surrounded me. Jasmine took me aside. "How are you? You look very pale." "I'm fine," I smiled. "Did you find the apartment?" "Yes." She showed me the photos. "It's clean. The landlords are charming, and it's 10 minutes from the hospital. Whenever you want, we'll move." "Thank you, Jasmine." I squeezed her hand. "But not yet. I have to wait for the right moment." "You're stronger than I thought." "I'm not strong. It's just that I no longer have the right to be weak." At noon, I received a message from Andre. "Sister-in-law, are you coming over for lunch? I wanted to stop by and see you." My brother-in-law's innocence hurt me. If only he knew the truth. "I'm busy. I'll stop by this weekend to bring your mother some things, and I'll see you there, okay?" "Okay, sister-in-law," he replied, full of confidence. The time had come for the family to start seeing the cracks. I wouldn't say anything. I would let them see the strangeness themselves. A distant pregnant woman, a terrified husband, a sister-in-law avoiding glances. The pieces would fall into place alone. That afternoon, when I got home, my mother-in-law was sitting in the living room, looking at me with concern. "What's wrong, honey?" "Marcus called me saying you're very upset, that you won't stop crying." I froze. Marcus, unable to bear the pressure, had gone to tell his mother. He came out of the kitchen with the face of a scared child. "Mom, talk downstairs. Don't upset her." I looked at him coldly. "Since when do you have the right to tell your family about our problems?" Marcus turned purple. My mother-in-law was pale. "Honey, what's wrong? Did you argue?" I looked at Marcus. My gaze was enough for him to understand that if he crossed the line, I would sink him. He lowered his head. With a soft but calculated voice, I told my mother-in-law, "Mom, I'm pregnant. My hormones are going crazy. I need space for myself and the baby." My mother-in-law breathed a sigh of relief. "Ah, the pregnancy, of course. But don't be mad at Marcus. He loves you very much." I smiled. "I know." With a simple phrase, I had cornered Marcus. Now, any complaint from him would be interpreted as him upsetting me, and I had the perfect excuse to control the situation. When my mother-in-law left, Marcus approached. "Thank you." "Don't be mistaken," I cut him off. "I'm not protecting you. I'm just waiting for the right time." He remained silent. His panic grew every day. I went into my room. "See, honey?" I whispered to my belly. "Your father is trembling with fear, but Mommy isn't. Mommy will organize everything so that the truth comes out, and then no one will be able to save him." The following weeks were of a tense calm. We lived together, but in different worlds. He tried to approach me, but I maintained an insurmountable distance. Chanel disappeared. She didn't even dare to step foot in the house, but that silence only confirmed that the storm was about to break. One Saturday afternoon, Andre called me. His voice was trembling. "Sister-in-law, can you come over? I need to see you urgently." I knew something had happened. "Is it about Chanel?" I asked. "I found out that a few months ago she said she was going to her parents' house, but she didn't go. She lied to me." "Meet me at the coffee shop next to your house," I told him. Andre was waiting for me with red eyes. "Sister-in-law, you know something. Tell me, please." He showed me the messages with his mother-in-law, who denied that Chanel had been there. "Where was she, sister-in-law?" I took a deep breath. "Andre, I'm sorry, but you have to know the truth." Last month, Chanel went to the gynecology clinic with a man to terminate the pregnancy. Andre paled. Whose was it? Who went with her? I looked at him directly. Marcus. Andre reeled back as if he had been punched. No, it can't be. My brother and Chanel. I put my hand on his shoulder. I didn't believe it either, but I have proof. Photos, witnesses. Andre covered his face and burst into tears like a child. When he looked up, his expression had changed. The pain had turned into rage. My brother knows, you know. This is messed up. Yes, I have to see him. I have to ask him. Andre, listen to me. I stopped him. Don't do anything crazy. You have to think about your parents. He nodded, but his eyes burned with anger. That night, my in-laws' house exploded. Andre burst in front of the whole family and threw his phone at Marcus. Brother, tell me whose baby Chanel aborted. Everyone was frozen. My in-laws speechless, Marcus white as the wall, Chanel kneeling, crying. I watched from the doorway as the truth consumed them. It's true, son, my mother-in-law sobbed. Marcus collapsed. I'm sorry, Mom. I made a mistake. Andre lunged to hit him, but I stopped him. Don't destroy yourself for them, Andre. The next day, I presented a document, but it wasn't for divorce. It was a request for legal separation during the pregnancy and to move back to my mother's house. I left it on the table for Marcus. Are you going to leave me? He asked desperately. I'm not divorcing yet. I'm just getting my son away from this toxic environment. Please don't go. I'll change. It's too late, Marcus. I don't want my son to grow up with a father who sacrifices a child to save himself. When I arrived at my mother's house, she hugged me. Welcome home, honey. No one will make you cry here. I leaned my head on her shoulder, and for the first time, I cried for real, not out of pain, but relief. Months later, I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. Holding him in my arms, I knew that my life would never again be broken by any man. Marcus wanted to visit us, but I didn't allow it. I only sent him a message. If you truly love your son, become a man he won't have to be ashamed of. Andre divorced Chanel. Marcus's family sank into silence. No one dared to blame me. They knew that what had been destroyed was not my marriage, but their own morality. And I went back to living, stronger and in peace. I watched my son sleep and smiled. Honey, Mommy doesn't hate anyone anymore. Karma exists. We just have to live with decency and protect each other. I kissed him on the forehead. Outside, the morning sun shone. A new life had begun. This story, seemingly calm, hid a secret that caused an entire family to implode. A simple photograph in a hospital unveiled a truth that no one expected. In the end, I realized that in a marriage, there are no secrets that last forever. The harder one tries to hide something, the more painful the day everything explodes. Everyone reaps what they sow. I'm really glad you're here and that I could share my story with you. If you liked it, show me by liking the video and subscribing to my channel. Let's see how many of us there are. Write in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is. I'm so curious to know where all you wonderful people are tuning in from. If you want to support me a little extra, you can also send a small donation. I share new life stories for you every single day. And now, 2 of my most popular stories will pop up on the screen so you can choose what to watch next.